There's a reason why Shaman is always the cat used in memes or joke images where a player rolls for an Uber, but in the end, they get this cat every time. Level 20. He gains a slight HP buff, but it's the kind that doesn't matter. With a 20% chance to deal 2-second freeze to floating at 250 range, a cost of 510 C, and single target attack, he's alright against them. The chance is very low, and the 2-second freeze isn't that great, but since you wouldn't have someone like Sanzo right now, as he'd probably be Monk with 50 lower range and the ability to slow, this is the best that you've got. Against the only important floating during this point, as in Bun Bun, the chance of him actually slowing him down due to only having 50 range over him and a single target is extremely low. Level 30, 300 range, and a 3-second freeze instead of a 2-second one. Though the extra 50 range sounds like it'll add a lot, it really just helps him stay safe from the enemies he can already target, like Bun Bun variants and Cyclones, and it doesn't give him any new enemies he can fight. Necro Dancer maxed. At best, he'd have 20.8k HP or 6.9k HP per 3k Bs and 2.3k DPS. On top of this, he gains a 30% chance to perform a level 2 wave, immunity to toxic, and a 70% freeze resistance. These talents only kind of help him, with the only notable one being his wave chance, as his HP is so low that having a freeze resistance or immunity to toxic will only be helpful in absurdly niche scenarios. Though you'd think his wave would help him get freezes off, as the wiki says, the chance of him to freeze and for him to use his waves are separate, meaning that he only has a 6% chance for both of them to activate. So even though he can technically hit enemies like Albros, Mooths, and the Faces for a few examples, he only has a 6% chance to actually freeze them for only 3 seconds from this range. The obvious, most likely thing that'll happen is that he hits the enemies in front of the targeted floating. The enemy dies because of your other attackers, and he gets hit by that very enemy floating because of his bad HP, and he dies. Is he a waver? If Shaman has a level 2 wave and he deals 2.3k DPS at this level or 4.2k damage per wave, this means that he'd deal 4.2k single target damage first, and then that same damage twice. So he'd deal a total of 12.6k damage, or 8.4k damage for all the other enemies that are hit by both his waves. This means that if he can get a wave every single time against a single enemy, he'd have 7k DPS, or in the second best case scenario, he'd have 4.7k DPS. This sounds kind of strong, especially given his 300 range and sort of easy stackability, but it's only kind of strong when you stack him because of the low 30% wave chance. Even though he attacks quickly, this just isn't effective or dependable damage in comparison to just other waivers or regular attacking mid-rangers. Because of this, even the thing that might have given him some form of generalist value is effectively useless, unless he has the best case possible luck, which is certainly impossible. Is he solid? No. Necrodancer's HP, even when Ultramax, is so terrible that if he's grazed, he died. His niche is completely wiped by Sanzo as well, who's just good enough and even better in most scenarios, with the 50 range difference not mattering at all since that doesn't even give Necro any advantages aside from a bit more safety. Basically, Necro's the definition of outclassed by Sanzo.